You're listening to the Summer Series, the best of Business Essentials Daily. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars. SoundCartel. Want to get the best out of your team? Well, the starting point is staring right back at you each time you look at the bathroom mirror each day. From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Personal ownership, accountability, and leading by example all play a crucial part in driving a team to high performance. That's according to Karen Gately, CEO of Corporate Dojo, who outlines 6 priorities for bosses who want to influence the success of their teams. First, Karen explains to Chris Ashmore why she thinks the greatest asset in any business is its people.
An organisation's potential, so in other words, how great their systems, their services, their products are, ultimately all of those things need to be delivered by people. So we can have the world's best idea, we can have the best technology, whatever it might be, but ultimately it comes down to how well do people actually deliver on that. So time and time again, I see organisations who are struggling to get ahead because what they're struggling to influence is how people are thinking and behaving and ultimately operating on a day-to-day basis, which defines whether or not that potential is realised.
And how would you define what a successful team looks like?
Well, I think a successful team is one that actually works together toward a shared outcome. So there's, again, plenty of examples in the world of business where we have individuals who are really talented, individuals who are performing well, but ultimately whether or not we're going to achieve everything we're capable of comes down to, do the groups of people in our business come together, think together, collaborate, link arms toward achieving a shared vision. So, ultimately it's whether or not people are all on the same bus and, heading in the same direction to achieve what the organisation is trying to.
Now, the $64,000 question, of course, is how does a boss get the best out of his or her team?
I think the most important part here is actually starting with managing ourselves. I think when a boss is able to win trust, win respect as a starting point, then they're in a position to actually have influence. I think the quality of relationship that we build with our team is fundamental. So if we want to get the best out of other people, let's start by getting the best out of ourselves. And, in that regard, I tend to focus on 6 key priorities I can take you through. As I've already said, the first being, let's make sure we've got trust and respect in the relationship, and that is something that doesn't happen overnight. We need to earn that. Let's also make sure that we are actually owning our leadership job. One of the most common issues that I see in the world of business is that leaders are so busy delivering on tasks or being focused on their own individual contributions that they're not deliberately influencing the engagement or the performance of the people that they are responsible for. So let's make sure that, if we're going to be in a leadership role, that we forge the time, the capacity, the focus, and ultimately let's take ownership and accountability for the outcomes we are able to achieve through other people. So I still meet leaders who measure their own success on their own individual standards, as opposed to what have I been able to actually make happen through the talent and energy of the people in my team. Then, of course, this is hardly news for most leaders, but we need to lead by example. We need to showcase what successful mindsets, what successful behaviours actually look like. So modelling the way we want other people to behave. Then we need to actually connect with our people. So let's make sure that we're engaging in regular communication. We are tapping into their ideas. Let's consult with our teams around what their thinking is and what insights they have. Let's make sure as leaders that we're listening and we're genuinely, again, being part of the solution because we're collaborating with the people in our workforce. Too many leaders are still in a space where they want to just tell people what to do rather than actually being in partnership with them and working out what are some of the best solutions or ways forward together. So, let's make sure we're valuing strong relationships, that we're building those strong relationships and that we're doing it deliberately, on a day-to-day basis. And then the final one I focus a lot on is making sure that we're adopting what I call an integrated approach. So again, when I look at how leaders operate, I see this spectrum between being people-focused and being results-focused. And the reality is when we are at either end of that spectrum, we're going to have shortcomings. So if we're just results focused, we're going to struggle to engage people and bring them on the journey. If we're just people focused and relationships focused, then often what I see there is that we're not having the tough conversations, we're not necessarily holding people to account. So really what we want is an integration of those two extremes. We want to integrate our head and our heart. We want to be focused on results through people. And in that space, I think leaders are more likely to operate as a coach, more likely, again, to inspire, engage, again, through strong relationships, but also ultimately clarity of what outcomes do we want to achieve and is there accountability around whether or not we're ultimately delivering.
What are some of the common mistakes that you see business owners or leaders should avoid?
So I think the most common mistakes I see actually start with the recruitment process, believe it or not. I actually think recruitment is the backbone of your people strategy. You've got to get the right people into your business in the first place. And what that looks like is making sure that we're hiring people that not only have the talent and the skill and the experience, but they also have the character traits we need. They're also motivated to do the job that we actually are asking them to do. So I think, getting those hiring processes right is a very important first step because, again, the most common mistake I see is leaders hiring people based on technical expertise, not making sure that they've, again, got that motivational culture fit, and then struggling from that point on to actually get that person to be an effective member of the team and obviously behaving and operating in ways that are helpful. So I think that's the first mistake that I think we absolutely need to resolve. The other one is avoiding the temptation to treat performance management as a biannual or an annual event. Our job as leaders is to inspire and influence performance every day. So don't go down the same path that a lot of leaders go down, and that is, remaining distant from the team and only thinking about performance when it comes to appraisal time. Put that coach's hat firmly on and work with people to give them the feedback, the counselling, the advice, the guidance that they need to not only be successful, but to also grow in their roles and hopefully with your business as well.
Well, final question, and another biggie. They've all been big questions, but how do you measure the success of individuals in the team?
Well, I think I've probably alluded to this already around it's not just about the results. It's about absolutely what can people achieve. We need to be very clear on what does success actually look like in terms of those outcomes or the impact that we want somebody to have. But we also need to measure how people go about it. Because as we're talking about here, we're talking about how to build a great team, how to leverage a group of people. So, if I can give you an example, I've seen all too often people delivering outcomes. So it might be a sales executive, for example, who's reaching their targets. But the mindsets and behaviours that they're bringing are actually really destructive to the rest of the group dynamics, the culture, other people's engagement. So, in that case, we're going to get some of the outcome achieved because that individual's kicking some goals, but we're never going to achieve the whole team's potential. So if we actually want, again, a great team, then individuals need to be held account to both, again, what goals have they or have they not kicked, but also what mindsets, what behaviours, what attitudes have they brought, and what ways in which they've gone about things. So it's both outcomes and behaviour.
That was Karen Gately, CEO of Corporate Dojo. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow at BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.